Hello and welcome to the Simplify webinar series. I'm David McBee. Thanks for joining us each month for industry news, interviews, product rollouts, and training on all things related to targeted advertising and connected TV. The Simplify webinar series is available on demand with new episodes posted each month at simply.fi/webinars, along with all of our previously recorded episodes. It's May of 2023, and this month we'll be taking a look at the valuable combination of search engine marketing, aka Google AdWords, and programmatic media, aka targeted display, video, and CTV ads. I'd like to start this month's webinar with a quick story from my past. Now, when I first started my career in advertising sales, it wasn't in the glamorous worlds of radio or TV. I didn't sell billboards or newspaper. No, I was a Yellow Pages rep. And as unglamorous as it was, I was proud of it. In their day, Yellow Pages were an absolutely vital part of an advertiser's marketing mix. Still, there were occasions when advertisers asked me to cancel their ads, but it was often because they misunderstood the role that Yellow Pages played. So I remember calling on an attorney one year, and he told me that because he had just signed up for a huge television promotion, he wouldn't be needing his half-page ad in the Yellow Pages. Of course, knowing this would be a huge mistake, I convinced him to give his ad one more year by offering to place a call tracking number in his ad in order to prove that it was generating phone calls. Now, a few months later, when the book came out and his commercials were running, we checked the numbers. Now, he was getting dozens of phone calls each month, more than he expected and more than enough to warrant the investment in the book. And while I would have loved to have taken credit for all those calls, I think you and I both know where those calls came from. Still, there's more to this story. You see, his half-page ad was on the bottom half of the page, meaning a different attorney was right above his. It just so happened that this other attorney also had a call tracking number, and it was, get this, getting like fewer than half of the amount of calls that my guy's ad was getting, even though he was on the top. And it's not like the ads were incredibly different or that there was something unique about either of the attorneys. Really, the only difference between the two was that my guy was running television commercials. Now, you probably already figured out where I'm going with this. My guy created awareness and branding that the top of the page attorney didn't. So when prospects saw his TV commercials, they went to the Yellow Pages looking specifically for my guy by name. Either that, or when prospects opened the Yellow Pages to find an attorney, maybe they recognized my guy from his presence on television. Now, clearly, the Yellow Pages didn't generate those calls, but it did capture them at the time of purchase. Now, what would have happened to my guy if he had canceled his Yellow Pages? Have you ever, I don't know, gone looking for an advertiser, struggled to find them, and then just chosen one of their competitors because it was more convenient? I can't say for sure that's what would have happened to my guy, but I can tell you one more quick story about an advertiser who took advantage of his competitor's failure to leverage their legacy media campaign with a solid Yellow Pages presence. Now, in this story, advertiser number one ran a ton of outdoor billboards, and they did not advertise in the Yellow Pages, like at all. Advertiser number two saw this happening and decided to run a big Yellow Pages ad, and he had the best year his business had ever seen because, well, he was capturing the leads that advertiser number one was driving to the Yellow Pages and missing out on. I've never forgotten either of those stories, and they've both informed a great many of the campaigns that I've recommended over the years. And both of these stories exemplify the value of both creative media and directional media. If you're not familiar with those terms, real quick, creative media creates awareness or creates a need. And when you see a furniture store advertising their Labor Day sale, for example, it creates an awareness of the brand and, in a perfect world, creates the need for a new fridge you didn't even know you wanted. Most legacy media digital media, and social media fall into this category. Directional media starts with the consumer having a need, like a broken fridge, and then looking for a place to buy it. Back in the day, that was the Yellow Pages. Today, that's search engines, most often Google. The dynamic between directional media and creative media still exists, very much like it did when I convinced my attorney that despite the investment in television, he still needed his ad in the Yellow Pages to capture those leads. They both play a vital role in the purchase funnel. It really comes down to this. Even though media has changed, the purchase funnel really hasn't changed very much. Brands that create awareness and need for their product are often responsible for getting the prospects into the purchase funnel to begin with. This is usually accomplished with campaigns that include lots of reach and frequency. Traditional media like radio, TV, outdoor, they're ideal for this, along with non-targeted programmatic media and, of course, social media. Later, when an interest is created, the prospect is considering the product or has shown some interest in the product, maybe something like reading articles about the product or even visiting real-life locations that sell the products, targeted programmatic media can really shine by placing ads in front of this person as they surf the web or watch connected TV. Social media, both organic and paid, play a big part here as well. When the prospect has finally decided they want what the advertiser is selling, that's when search comes in. 68% of consumers turn to Google for information when shopping for a specific product. And of course, loyalty is created by getting consumers to become social media followers and by retargeting them with programmatic media. Here's what that story doesn't tell us. When a solid creative media plan is in place, prospects often search for the product or brand by name. And anyone who has ever run a Google AdWords campaign knows that brand searches are often a great deal less expensive than product and service related keywords. And in fact, most of the time, the brand ranks very well organically for their own name and may not even need to pay for those clicks at all. In preparation for this webinar, I interviewed several agencies about their experience combining SEM and programmatic media. And the one consistent thing I heard across the board was that when programmatic media is added to an SEM campaign, brand searches go up significantly. And that is great news for advertisers because brand searches mean really inexpensive or free website traffic. Now, speaking of inexpensive, let's compare the investments in SEM and programmatic media. In the world of Google SEM, the cost per click is determined by the market, and the most valuable keyword can be expensive. Here are the estimated costs per click for home loans, mortgages, and refinance for mid to top of the page ranking. Worth every penny if the advertiser has a quality website and can convert even a small percentage of those clicks into leads. Still, even a good click-through rate is around 6 to 8%, meaning that over 90% of the people Googling those keywords are not going to click the ad. And there's pretty much zero branding value in a text ad. Don't believe me? Do you remember the Google ads you didn't click? As my friend Adam Mark at 2060 Digital likes to say, even when you're winning at SEM, you're still losing. Meanwhile, in a programmatic bidding environment, the price of an ad is mostly related to the publisher where it is placed, not so much the keywords used to build the target audience. Sure, there is a cost for the data, and sub-audience segments may cost more than others, but there's often not a huge difference in, say, the mortgage audience and the restaurant audience like there might be over on Google AdWords. So cost is based on the CPM, or cost per thousand impressions. Display ads can run anywhere from $2 or $3 to $10 CPMs, meaning the ads themselves cost less than a penny a piece. Video ads might run around 2.5 cents, and CTV ads could cost a nickel a piece. And while some will argue that the click-through rate of a display campaign is poor, 0.1% is an average CTR for display campaigns, Retargeting, video, and social display do better than 0.1%, but not a whole lot better. Oh, and connected TV CTR is 0% because they can't even be clicked. But there's branding value to every one of those ads that SEM just doesn't have. That's why I say that programmatic ads that aren't clicked still work. Unlike text ads on Google, display and video include imagery and logos that impact awareness and brand recall. We can look to traditional media for evidence of this. Legacy media can't be clicked, but that doesn't keep McDonald's from being the #1 seller of hamburgers in the world. SEM also has its limitations. An advertiser can only reach those directional media prospects that are actively looking for them. That number is finite, and often advertisers come to realize that they can only invest so much into SEM. Certainly, the advertiser can add more keywords to their campaign, but eventually it will cap. Meanwhile, with all the different tactics and ad creatives available, advertisers have a nearly endless well of prospects that they can target with programmatic media. Here's just one example of one of our addressable geofencing audiences targeting young consumers in the market for a mortgage. Now, why is this audience larger than the SEM audience? Think back to the purchase funnel. There's a reason it's shaped like a funnel. There are more prospects at the top. And if this audience isn't large enough, look what happens when we add more data segments to the mix. We're now looking at over 150,000 homes where the residents are in the market for a mortgage or home equity loan. In this next portion of the webinar, I'd like to share the point of view that has convinced more SEM advertisers to consider programmatic than anything I've already described. I'm talking about simple time on site. Here's what I mean. The average person spends about 11 minutes a day on the website google.com. 11 minutes. Do you spend more than 11 minutes a day on the internet? The average person spends over 8 hours a day with digital media. That includes surfing the web, hanging out on social media, watching videos and CTV, and so on. So to the advertiser who says that they don't need programmatic media because they have a great SEM campaign, I say, awesome. For 11 minutes a day, you're all set. But what about the other 8 hours a day that your prospects are online? Do you want to completely miss out on that? And the final benefit that comes from running both SEM and programmatic media is the ability to compare and contrast results, to optimize and move budgets around until you really get the campaign singing. Ideally, your SEM and your programmatic media are being run by the same company so that you can have these conversations. It's why Simplify rolled out SEM management this year. Consolidating under one roof minimizes the number of people involved and puts your billing all in one place, and everyone loves that. As for Simplify's SEM management, one of my interviewees mentioned how happy they were with the competitive fees and how they like leveraging Simplify's established customer service. They know their SEM rep by name and are not dealing with someone new every week. Lastly, I'd like to share this excerpt from a past episode of the Simplify webinar series. The speaker is George Cordova, Senior Vice President of Paid Media at Zeno Group. In this clip, George describes what often happens when an advertiser chooses to run SEM without targeted ads.
It was about 5 years ago. We were working with a larger fitness brand, and the CFO got in. It's a short story. CFO got involved and said, "Why are we spending so much money on programmatic display if all the money is coming in from search and social, and this is where the leads are coming in?" And he said, "Turn it off." And we're like, we highly, recommend not doing that because we're going to see a dip, and this is what we're doing. We had geofence campaigns, we had conquesting campaigns, we had remarketing, we had prospecting, we did the whole gamut. And so he saw it as a waste, and we said, okay. And so we had to turn it off. And within, I believe, and we had for this, we were at a very aggressive cost per lead campaign, and we needed about 100 leads a day. And so we turned it off and said, okay, we're going to turn it off. We're going to let it go for a little bit. So that was, again, high funnel, all the prospecting pieces, all of the remarketing was off. And we saw leads dip within, I believe it was 4 to 5 days of 31% immediately. And we're saying, and we were like, hey, this is kind of it's proving out not the right way that we want to do it. Cost per leads were going higher. We were pushing all the search and social as much as we can, but we weren't feeding it, right? Like we weren't feeding, and we weren't continuing that conversation with a prospect that doesn't know about the brand, and they saw us a week ago, and now we're remarketing to them, and we're hitting them up on social. But if you take away the top part of the funnel, we have to pay a lot more for it. So we saw a big decrease, and it took us a couple of weeks to get back to, back to where our normal cost per lead plus lead volume was. It took about 30 something days because we literally shut off the faucet and just kept churning through this group. So it's one of those exercises that I always talk about. I bring out with me every single time I talk about, programmatic and how important it is to that conversation. And, Justin, you said it's like that user journey. All that we're doing is kind of supporting that user journey and just nudging people along, because there's so much noise out there that, right after this call, I'm probably going to have to jump to another meeting. And now my mindset's changed, and I forget about it. I need that reminder to bring me back to whatever I was thinking about before. And that's where that programmatic piece, number one, it supports the feeding the funnel, number one, but then also kind of pushing them through. So that was one of those things where I tell prospective clients, current clients, the people that are not thinking about programmatic, I'm like, hey, how are you going to think about something and then go buy it without kind of looking at it or read about it?
Thank you, George. That was fantastic. I probably should have started with that and saved everyone a bunch of time. Well, I hope by now you'll agree that combining SEM and programmatic media drives performance. And with that, I'm going to let you get back to work. This webinar and our full library of webinars are available on demand at simply.fi/webinars. And be sure to follow us on social media so you don't miss out on all of our new content. If you have questions about Simplify's offerings, please reach out to your Simplify account manager or send an email to hi@simply.fi. I'm David McBee. Be awesome, and we'll see you next time.